This is Dolany TV. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome back to the channel as we get set for the first weekend of September. And now, obviously, the Oilers went out and made a very minimal move yesterday, signing Ryan Murray to league minimum. However, a big move in the aspect of what we got to talk about today, given the fact the Oilers are now, without Ryan McLeod signed, sitting over the LTIR money that extends the cap a little ways for us to keep this roster together. So, with that said, where do the Oilers turn to find that little bit of extra cap space? We've seen some options come up so far over the past couple of weeks, and obviously there's been rumors all, well, summer as well. But for the meantime, folks, just give me a sec. I'm slow starting this morning, so I'll appeal to you here is the fact if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, consider leaving a like. Whatever you do extra above and beyond watching the video is greatly appreciated. But let's get into it, all right? I'm talking about what the Oilers can do to free up salary cap space. And the long rumored one is obviously send Tyson Barrie to Montreal. That's the one that end all be all, end of the day, for some reason seems to be the one that clears everything up for the Edmonton Oilers, gets the Montreal Canadiens satisfied with what they want, and away they go. Currently, though, they're $6 million over the cap as well. However, they've got, obviously, Mr. Carey Price, who will be going on the LTIR, and potentially Jonathan Drouin as well. So you talk about potentially upwards of $16 million in LTIR. That's a pretty big get for the Montreal Canadiens, who can work with that $6 million above the cap, even if they absorb Tyson Barrie's $4.5 million cap hit. However, I don't know. Here's the thing, right? As Oilers fans, we're pretty down on Tyson Barrie. We're pretty much a team that values him only for offense, can't see him for anything else. Nothing. He doesn't contribute anything else, I guess what I should say people see. And that is cause for concern simply because I think based solely on his offense, you can still get some kind of tangible return in a trade for Tyson Barrie. We're not talking Dmitry Kulikov that you're trading for no return. And when you're talking about the Montreal Canadiens, I think the minimum you got to snag off them is at least one of their fourth rounders, right? Hey, we'll dump the salary cap, but we need something in assets back. And Montreal has at least four or three fourth round draft picks in the 2023 draft. So you got to think there. I'm a betting man. That's my minimum return from Montreal. Obviously, I think you can still get higher. I think you can get a pick and a mid-tier prospect for Tyson Barrie, depending on where the Montreal Canadiens value Barrie on their roster. That's the other side too. Trades aren't made specifically because one team values a player at X. It's because the other team values him at Y as well. So you think at Montreal's defense, who they've got on the right side, they've got David Savard, Justin Barron, and of course looks like Chris Weidman. Now they just signed Chris Weidman to pretty much league minimum for the next 2 years. He's 32. He's been an Oiler. You know the whole story. But their defense outside of that is 28, 29, 31, 20, 22, and they've got 6 defensemen on the NHL roster right now as it's just sitting according to Cap Friendly. Yeah, Caden Gooley's going to push there, but what happens if Caden Gooley doesn't work out right away? And then really, where else do they have anyone else that's going to be of substance? Yeah, Madison Bowie's hanging around, I guess. Arbor Zajac, he's around. But you look at the end of day numbers for the Montreal Canadiens is yes, the reason this rumor persists is because Tyson Barrie would be a valuable asset to the Montreal Canadiens. And I think the least talked about part of it is this is a trade destination where the Oilers could get an actual return for Tyson Barrie. And that's what I have not seen talked about so much when it comes to things involving a Tyson Barrie trade is what that return looks like. Because everyone fixates on $4.5 million in cap. And I get that. That's the big get, right? If you're getting a fourth round pick and a mid-tier prospect for a defenseman that scores 40 points a season, you're not winning the trade by any means straight up. But suddenly you free up that $4.5 million cap space, and now you can suddenly maybe sign one of those guys that comes in on a PTO. You can sign Ryan McLeod, right? You can suddenly start sliding around the pieces just a little bit more easier than having to maybe give up assets to go out and get a uh, a LTIR cap player, right? You're talking Ben Bishop. We've heard that rumor already this week as well. So there's a lot to be considered here. And for the Oilers, they don't exactly have that kind of money to be going out there and paying in terms of draft capital. Sorry, cat hair or something on my lip. For an LTIR player, right? We got a second round pick that's got some details on it. We got a third round pick. Fourth round pick was traded away on March 2022 for, I believe, Derek Brassard. Fifth round pick, sixth round pick, seventh round pick. Where in any of that are you going to get the LTIR cap relief you are looking for if you are the Edmonton Oilers? That's the tough part, right? And that's where I look at it is, honestly, right, Tyson Barrie, the offense would be a loss to the Oilers' defense, but the addition of allowing Evan Bouchard on the power play and allowing Philip Broberg to offensively start generating points, and Darnell Nurse hopefully offsetting a bad year with a good year would be stellar for the Oilers in the sense of you don't lose anything offensively. And with Tyson Barrie, yeah, if you want to knock him for the defense, go for it, for whatever. In the fact of you probably are gaining defensively by having a guy like Ryan Murray or Dmitry Samorukov, Marcus Niemelainen in the lineup. So there you go, right? It's not so much I'm concerned about trying to free up cap. It's more I'm concerned about getting the right return for the cost of getting rid of the player, right? And that's where minimum I'd say you're looking for out of a team like Montreal, which that's the rumor we're talking about, is simply put that one of those 3 4th round picks, because at least you get something tangible. And for the Oilers, they clearly were able to use it at the trade deadline last year to acquire a player that stepped in and filled some shoes for a few games in the stretch run of the playoffs. So keep that in mind, right? Is there is a price to pay for doing what you need to do to operate a team, but there's also a price to get for a player of Tyson Barrie's caliber. That's the thing. 100% is you're not trading away a completely useless player at $4.5 million. Tyson Barrie's offense adds enough value at $4.5 million to justify a tangible return to the Oilers in a trade with the Montreal Canadiens. And then yes, that bleeds out to the PTOs, that bleeds out to Ryan McLeod, that bleeds out to we don't have to look at acquiring Ben Bishop and his LTIR money. It all kind of translates one and the same. It's just that little cushion of $4.5 million cap allows the Oilers to really operate well to start the season. There is, however, as the Oilers fanatic mentioned in his video yesterday and on Twitter and on the YouTube comments a couple times, I believe, is just simply that math that the Oilers could run a small roster to start the year, 2021 instead of 23 out of the gate, and then start paper transactioning away. And yeah, you can suddenly activate the LTIR, do funky things, and probably make it work with a Dylan Holloway on the roster. However, do you want to do that, or do you want to do it the easy way? And that's what Ken Holland is deciding currently this weekend. I am guaranteeing that, because in a day it has to be done one way or another. Folks, I'm Tyson, this is Stallin TV. I'm up on out of here.